The story opens at the bustling Hiramatsu station late at night, with the clock already past 10 p.m. Neon signs glow across the platforms, and inside the third carriage from the front, near the door on the opposite side, our female lead is silently glaring at a boy who is simply standing there without a clue. As the scene widens, we discover that this seemingly intimidating girl is actually panicking internally, desperately trying to figure out how to give back a handkerchief that belongs to him. A faint blush creeps onto her face, and the story flashes back several months. Near a parking area, someone delivers a brutal kick straight into a girl's face. The girl from the train is in the middle of a fierce brawl against a gang of delinquents, and her flawless technique makes it obvious she's an experienced fighter. She completely dominates the confrontation before roaring so loudly that everyone around freezes in place, practically shouting for them all to drop dead already. That incident happened more than 6 months earlier, and by then she had already built a reputation as someone constantly surrounded by fights and trouble. Once the fight finally ended, she was covered in bruises and boarded the very same train we saw at the beginning. Even with all her strength, she secretly struggled with low self-confidence. In her thoughts, she reflected that true change usually comes with courage and determination. But she felt nothing like that. She was drained, exhausted, and barely had enough energy to stay standing. In fact, she had only ended up on that particular train through pure coincidence after changing her original plans. The passengers immediately became interested in her appearance. Dirt and injuries covered her body while whispers spread around the carriage. She quietly lowered her head and pretended not to notice. On the surface, she acted unfazed. Deep down, however, treatment like this had become painfully familiar. Then, without warning, someone extended a handkerchief toward her and gently asked if she was all right. She froze. Unable to say anything, she simply stared at the boy standing before her. Even though he repeatedly encouraged her to take it, something about that small act left an unforgettable impression on her. Back in the present, Ryoko mentally prepared herself once again, fully convinced that today she would finally gather enough courage to return it. It shouldn't be this hard, yet by the time she stepped forward, every other passenger had already gotten off the train. She walked out alone, looking as though she had suffered another humiliating defeat. As the train pulled away, the fearsome fighting gorilla known as Ryoko had once again lost to herself. "This is impossible." Those were the only words she could manage. It had taken 6 entire months just to work up enough courage to hand back a simple handkerchief and speak to him. And she had failed over and over again. Discouraged yet again, she wondered if the boy even remembered her at all. Maybe she was the only one who had been hoping for another meeting this entire time. Suddenly, she snapped her eyes open and started pounding a nearby pole in frustration, causing passing pedestrians to stare at her as though questioning her sanity. Her inner thoughts continued running wild. Ironically, she absolutely despised weak-minded thinking. She immediately scolded herself for entertaining such pathetic doubts. "I am Iron Leg Ryoko. Nobody surpasses me. My very presence is enough to make a crying child fall silent." After declaring that to herself, she renewed her determination. Tomorrow, tomorrow she would definitely return the handkerchief. And then tomorrow finally arrived. After classes ended, Ryoko could be found standing inside the girls' restroom. Maintaining an incredibly serious expression despite how adorable it looked, she began giving herself another motivational speech. "I am a beast, a hunter that stalks its prey. Now everything depends on timing. Nothing else matters. This is the day you conquer your fear. Don't hesitate. Do what has to be done. Do what you truly want." Once her strangely dangerous yet somehow cute pep talk came to an end, her cheeks turned red as she prepared to finally meet the boy she liked. Unfortunately, her confidence disappeared almost instantly. Someone loudly called out to her from behind. A group of delinquent girls stood waiting nearby. Among them was a blonde girl with a broken nose who called Ryoko by her infamous nickname, Iron Legs, commenting that it had been quite a while. She deliberately leaned in close, trying to intimidate her through sheer pressure alone. Ryoko remained perfectly silent. The bully mocked her, reminding her that her suspension had finally ended and sarcastically commenting on how dignified she was walking now, claiming such behavior didn't suit a female gorilla at all. As she hurled one insult after another, she secretly expected Ryoko to explode and attack her. Instead, Ryoko simply smiled. A huge, genuine smile. The unexpected reaction completely stunned everyone present. The girls approached even more aggressively, criticizing her expression and calling it ugly despite it looking nothing like that. Ryoko calmly responded with the exact same words they had just thrown at her. She explained that she had a train to catch and refused to waste precious time fighting over something so meaningless. Then she turned around and walked away. One of the girls grabbed her shoulder and shouted that her house wasn't even in this direction, and besides, she didn't need to take a train to get home in the first place. Ryoko stopped. A second later, she slowly looked back with a terrifying glare that instantly changed the atmosphere. In a cold voice, she warned the girl to remove her hand immediately, or she'd personally make sure every bone in her face ended up broken. The threat alone was enough. The girl immediately let go. As Ryoko continued walking away, she calmly explained that she wasn't the same thug everyone used to fear. I've decided to change my path. And besides, I'm far too busy to waste time dealing with you. She casually waved goodbye before giving them one final warning. No matter what happened, they should never stand in front of her again. Her sudden transformation was so unexpected that it left everyone puzzled. Even the girls she had just walked away from couldn't make sense of it. As Ryoko disappeared, one of the bullies narrowed her eyes, convinced that something unusual was definitely going on. Meanwhile, it was already past 10 at night, and the train sped through the darkness. Inside the carriage, Ryoko was fighting a completely different battle, one inside her own head. Her face turned red as she desperately searched for the perfect moment to speak. She kept glancing toward the boy and then quickly looking away again before finally forcing herself to take 3 slow, deep breaths in an attempt to calm her nerves. She was just about to open her mouth, but then the bully's earlier words echoed through her mind. They had mocked her for trying to act like some polite and respectable girl. The memory struck her hard, and the confidence she had barely managed to build instantly crumbled. Her lips slowly closed again. Another thought crept into her mind. Even if she successfully returned the handkerchief, then what? There would no longer be any excuse to keep riding this train. Quietly, she admitted the truth to herself. I'm afraid of giving it back, but I'm even more afraid of this moment coming to an end. She lowered her head while drowning in those emotions. The boy, completely unaware of everything happening around him, simply continued reading his book in silence. Suddenly, Ryoko noticed a familiar group enter the train. The delinquent girls. She immediately froze. It didn't take long for her to realize they had probably followed her, because of how suspiciously she had behaved earlier. One of them casually walked over and called out her infamous nickname, Iron Legs. With complete arrogance, the bully wrapped an arm around Ryoko's shoulders and leaned against her with a smug grin. So, what exactly are you hiding from us? If I were you, I'd probably take my own advice. Ryoko immediately pushed her away, but the girl wasn't finished. She laughed and continued talking. I saw the way you kept looking over here. I know that expression all too well. By now, she had clearly guessed the truth, that Ryoko had feelings for a boy who regularly rode this train. Without hesitation, the bully pointed directly at Ryoko before turning toward the boy. This girl has had a huge crush on you for ages. Ryoko's eyes shot open in panic. The boy looked completely confused, trying to understand what was happening. Then Ryoko instinctively shouted a single word. No! The moment it left her mouth, her heart sank. Those words were the exact opposite of what she truly felt. In that instant, it seemed as though she had destroyed the only reason she had continued boarding this train every single day. At almost the same time, the train arrived at Utsa Station and the doors slid open. Ryoko remained frozen where she stood. The bully only made things worse. Pretending to feel guilty, she laughed awkwardly and said she must have misunderstood everything. Oh, maybe my guess was totally wrong. I really shouldn't have said something so unnecessary. With a fake apologetic smile, she continued. I didn't mean anything by it, so forgive me. My nose still hurts from when you broke it. What I said was obviously just a mistake. Without saying another word, Ryoko shoved her aside and ran out through the open doors, abandoning everything behind her. Back inside the train, the boy quietly reflected on what had just happened, while the bully simply laughed at what she considered childish behavior. Ryoko kept running until she reached a nearby park. She sat alone on one of the swings, gently rocking back and forth in the quiet night. As she replayed everything in her head, she realized that all the hopes and excitement she had carefully protected for 6 long months had disappeared in an instant. And the saddest part? Nothing had ever truly begun. There had never been a confession. No mutual feelings, no relationship, only her own silent emotions. After a lonely pause, she quietly whispered, "What was I even expecting?" Everyone there probably thought I looked pathetic. They must have seen me as nothing but an embarrassment. It's almost funny when I think about it. Before she could finish, her voice broke completely. The tears she had desperately tried to suppress finally overflowed. She cried uncontrollably, as though she had just watched her very first love slip away after spending half a year treasuring those feelings. Everything had fallen apart in the worst possible way, and no matter how hard she tried, the tears simply wouldn't stop. Eventually, she forced herself to calm down. Maybe ordinary romance was never meant for someone like me. She wiped away her tears and runny nose with her sleeves before taking another deep breath. No matter what happened, she had decided that she would finally return the handkerchief once and for all. With that thought, she reached into her bag to make sure it was still there. Then she froze. Her eyes widened in disbelief. The handkerchief was gone. She frantically searched through every corner of her bag again and again, desperately trying to remember everything that had happened that day. Then one particular memory surfaced, the moment when the bully had been leaning all over her. Something about that encounter suddenly felt very suspicious. It didn't take long for Ryoko to realize exactly what had happened. During all the commotion earlier, the bully had slipped the handkerchief out of her bag so smoothly that she hadn't noticed a thing. The realization instantly filled her with anger. Fed up with them constantly interfering in her life, she shot up from the swing and rushed straight back toward the station where she had last seen both the gang and the boy. As expected, they were still there. Completely out of breath, Ryoko confronted them and demanded they return it immediately. The lead bully casually held up the missing handkerchief with a smirk. "So this little piece of cloth really means that much to you? It belongs to him, doesn't it?" Without wasting time answering, Ryoko lunged forward in an attempt to snatch it back. She failed. The bully laughed and explained that if Ryoko wanted the handkerchief returned, she'd have to do something first. Then her expression suddenly turned cold. "Our only condition? You become our punching bag." Ryoko stared back at her and reminded her what had happened during their previous fight. She had completely overwhelmed her before. With a threatening glare, Ryoko warned that if she wanted another broken nose, this time it would be far worse. The bully didn't back down. "You can hit me if you want, but do it here in public, and all that fake image you've been trying so hard to build will disappear." She smiled mockingly. "Do you really want him seeing you with that kind of reputation?" Then she calmly added that all Ryoko had to do was quietly take a beating for a while, and after that they'd leave her alone for good. Ryoko thought it over. Getting hit a few times was far better than creating a massive public scene. After a brief pause, she nodded. "I understand. Go ahead." The moment she agreed, the girls revealed they had prepared everything in advance. One of them pulled out a thick metal chain. Pretending to admire her determination, they sneered. "If your convictions are as strong as those famous legs of yours, let's put them to the test." Minutes passed. The beating became completely one-sided. Heavy blows landed one after another while dull impacts and painful grunts echoed through the area. People nearby noticed what was happening, but simply ignored it and walked away. Ryoko was repeatedly struck so hard that she collapsed onto the ground again and again, struggling to breathe. Her arms had been tightly restrained. Even her legs had been bound because the girls feared how dangerous they truly were. One of the bullies grabbed her by the hair and pulled her face upward. "So what's it like? Being beaten while you can't do anything except endure it. Frustrating, isn't it? If you're really so proud of those legs, then break free and fight us." Ryoko simply stared back. There was no fear, no panic, barely even any pain visible in her expression. Instead, there was something far more terrifying, a silent beast-like aura that sent chills through everyone around her. Even the bullies found themselves shaken by how composed she remained. Eventually, they realized something. Physical suffering meant very little to someone like Ryoko. So instead, they attacked somewhere else. One girl casually brought up what had happened after Ryoko fled from the train earlier. She explained that the boy had actually stepped in and tried to stop everyone from bullying her. "He was so worried about you." The moment I saw him, I knew this handkerchief belonged to him. Then she casually tossed the cloth onto the ground and deliberately stomped on it. Ryoko's eyes widened. The bully continued speaking without mercy. After you left, we beat him up too. The words struck Ryoko harder than any punch. Still not satisfied, the girl mocked him relentlessly, calling him weak, pathetic, spineless. She laughed and questioned why someone as strong as Ryoko would ever fall for someone like him. Then she looked down at Ryoko's injured body and sneered again. You lying there like this? He was lying there too. Maybe you two really are perfect for each other. Satisfied with themselves after the merciless beating, the girls decided they had enough fun and prepared to leave. But suddenly, wait, Ryoko's voice stopped them. As they turned around, every single one of them froze in absolute terror. With overwhelming force, Ryoko had snapped the thick chain completely in half. The broken metal hung uselessly as everyone stood speechless. Slowly rising to her feet, she calmly looked at them. I don't care how many times I get hurt. I don't care how many punches I take. Even coughing up blood doesn't bother me. But dragging an innocent person into this? That's something I'll never understand. She lowered her stance, then quietly declared, So now, I'll teach all of you some proper manners. The girls immediately panicked and began shouting at her again. But Ryoko had already moved. Launching herself forward with explosive speed, she leaped into the air. One foot landed on another girl's body, using her as a stepping stone to gain even more height. Then, with incredible force, she swung her right leg downward. The devastating kick connected directly with the leader's face. Her nose broke instantly, and every trace of arrogance vanished along with it. Not long afterward, Ryoko completely overwhelmed the remaining girls. Once everything was over, she made her way back to the station, where she hoped the boy might still appear. Instead of sympathy, however, many of the people around simply whispered and laughed as they looked at her bruised appearance. Ryoko quietly accepted it. She decided this would be the end. No matter what happened, she would apologize for everything and finally return the handkerchief. When the train doors slid open, the unexpected happened. The boy was standing right there. Both of them were covered in bruises from head to toe. The moment they saw each other, they both instinctively let out confused sounds of surprise. For several seconds, neither could speak. Finally, Ryoko gathered every ounce of courage she had. I'm sorry. It's all because of me that you got hurt. But I'm really relieved to see that you're okay. With trembling hands, she offered him the handkerchief. In a quiet voice, she added, You probably don't remember me, but this belongs to you. And thank you for everything. Before she could continue, the boy gently interrupted her. I remember you. Without hesitation, he accepted the handkerchief. Ryoko stood there completely stunned. Then he admitted something unexpected. The truth is, I wanted to talk to you too. But every single time I got nervous and couldn't bring myself to do it. As he awkwardly confessed that embarrassing truth, he suddenly noticed tears forming in Ryoko's eyes. For all her incredible strength, for all the fear she inspired in others. At heart, Ryoko was simply an ordinary girl experiencing genuine emotions.